The breath of wind whispering truths.
The flickering flame igniting our words.
The rushing water cleansing uncouth.
The fractured earth exchanged in thirds.
A spirit's scroll comes unfurled.
As oracle eyes peer into our world.
Unfamiliar.
Ooh, welcome back! So, how is everyone today? It is morning. We're recording. Welcome back to Unfamiliar, which is a podcast where myself, Duckie, a weirdo, hangs out with his best friend, their best friend, who is Kat. Hi, Kat.
Hi. Also a weirdo. Nice to meet you.
And we just do our shit. This might be the first episode we're actually recording in the new year. I can't remember. So if so, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
It is, because I rearranged the order, so if things felt like they were a little strange, they were. So today we're talking about ghosts, baby.
Yeah.
This is like similar to all of our topics. We're talking about ghosts initially. We will probably deep dive later. So today we got two little ghosty stories for you. We each have one. I'll begin and start reading mine, but just a little disclaimer: mine's not really about a ghost. So
Ooh. That's funny because I don't know that mine is actually about a ghost, but we'll see.
That's iconic. The fun thing is we actually both wrote individually our stories and did not just find ones online like so many other podcasts do. So, we'll see. It's probably going to be somewhat fascinating. So that.
Yeah, I agree.
So I am going to begin reading now. Dun 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 dun. Also, feel free to interject at any point that I'm reading, ask questions. I don't mind.
I'm going to interrupt you every sentence. Don't worry.
Hell yeah. Before I begin, Duckie, I have this all written out, by the way, literally. So if it sounds like I'm reading, I am. Before I begin, I, Duckie, would like to make a short disclaimer. This is a story that I have written in an effort to tie the topic of ghosts to a very real experience in my own personal life. While the events of the following are actively true for me, there are moments added about my future plans and reflections on what I think this experience might teach me in the long run. So with that being said, I'm going to try to notate when those shifts are happening, so we kind of know what's reality, what's the future, what's reflection. And so let's begin the story.
Hey, story time.
Hell yeah. So this is, again, off script real quick, 100% true for me, okay? So for as long as I can remember, which notably is a span of time that has decreased significantly in the last few years, I would say I have been haunted or maybe blessed, with one recurring dream. I still have multiple dreams, but this one is I experienced this dream many times. Probably
it keeps coming back.
I think the max I had it, there was one year where I probably had this dream 100 times in the year. No joke. So even now, in the still evening as I type all this out, or even more so right now as we record this episode, I can easily get flashes of the visuals, just because I'm so intimately familiar with it. I have meditated and reflected on this dream for days on end, bound to an addiction of my own making, My curiosity is more akin to a fever dream than the source of inquiry itself. And yet, as deep as my theories and machinations go, I cannot help but accept the face value. This dream is haunting and beautiful and spiritual and weird and potentially in need of a content warning. So if you're sensitive
Okay.
to encounters at night, dark figures, death, firearms, or miney, gore, body horror, that sort of thing, please take caution. But luckily, the story is quite short. The dream itself is very short. So skip ahead a minute or two, something like that. So this pre-written section that I have is going to pause, and I'm just going to recall the dream in real time right now.
Great.
So in my dream, this dream that I've had hundreds and thousands of times at this point, since middle school or high school, I literally can't remember. It's been going on what feels like my whole conscious memory of life. In the dream, I know instantly that I'm currently 26. I'm going to turn 27 in March. I know in the dream that it is my last day of being 26. It is that night. It has passed midnight, and it is 3 a.m. on the day that I turn 27. So on my birthday, 3 a.m. in the morning. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I know this dream.
You probably do. There sometimes the beginning of the dream changes. I have been in a nightclub before. I've been in a bar before. I've been in my house. All of it leads to me being pulled outside by some unseeable force. It's just a natural pull of the universe, that sort of thing. I, of my own free will, walk outside. It's 3 a.m. It is dark except for 2 street lights. One is very far behind me, and one is pretty close in front of me, like on the corner of a street, that sort of thing. I am standing in the middle of the road, and I look towards the light that is very far away and look back towards the other light as if I'm just looking up and down the street. And a shadowy figure is there. He is back, or they, I should say. I'm not 100% sure on the gender. I keep wanting to say he, which makes no sense for a thing I'll think about later. But he's backlit by the closer one. And there's not really physical details that are descriptive of the shadowy figure. It's kind of just like the basic form of a human. There doesn't even look like there might even be clothes at all, but I can't tell. It is pitch midnight black. It's just a silhouette that's filled in, basically. And pretty much the entire rest of the dream is just he takes a harpoon gun, which, if you don't know what that is, think of like Moby Dick, the guy fighting the white whale. People use harpoon guns for fishing or for taking down whales, unfortunately, that sort of thing. But he basically points a harpoon gun at my face and shoots me. I kind of feel my head split open, and that's it. And I don't wake up. I have never woken up in a cold sweat. I have never woken up with fear or anything like that. Like, I get hit by the harpoon gun, I clearly die. That's it. That's just how the dream ends. And it's usually that's when I wake up. But I've never had I've had nightmares where I like react really bad and wake up or like jolt, hit the ground or something and jolt, that sort of vibe. Jolt awake. It's never like that. So let's pick back up on the pre-written part and begin the section where I muse on future goals. So this dream has been with me for, like I said, as long as I can remember. It had to have started in like middle school or high school, maybe even before that. But it's been so vivid for so long that I have actually no way of knowing. I don't know how or why or when it began. And I cannot, and it's always been my 27th birthday. It's not like it's the next birthday. It's always my 27th birthday. It's like my entire life has been leading to that number, which is so weird to me.
Yeah.
I even mentioned in a previous episode, I'm going off script a little bit. I even mentioned in a previous episode, I used to always see the time 7:27. So it's like I don't know why that always sticks with me a lot. But I cannot help but see this as an omen of sorts. I cannot help but see this as a warning, a blessing, as a message, as a gift, as a chance to change, as a beginning, as an ending, as death. Literally, physically, mentally, spiritually, metaphysically, I really don't know. But I do know death. And death is a rebirth, and death is new, and death is old. And so, if and hopefully, when I survive this encounter in 2 months, whatever this dream may actually end up being, I have a plan to get my first tattoo. It's going to
Yay!
be a harpoon.
Of course.
So it'll be a reminder to move forward, to be fearless, to look death in the eye and scoff. This tattoo will be a trophy and a token that I survived, and therefore I am immortal. I lived and will continue to live, and that I died and will continue in death, a ghost. And as I say that, I cannot help but begin the reflection on this experience. Clearly, it's not happened yet, but I can't help but think ahead. It's been years in the making. My entire life feels like it's been going towards this, a dream that I think about almost daily. I have 2 to 3 times a week still. It is got its grip on me, and in 2 months, I encounter this potentially life-changing experience, whatever it may be. And in
Right.
it, I become a ghost. And with that transition, maybe more alive, more human, more awake. I don't know. But I do know that I have never wavered while standing there in the middle of the street, staring at a harpoon gun, already a ghost, and an immortal, and a duck, and a witch, and maybe partly fey, and certainly autistic, and absolutely non binary, and queer, and wildly curious, and so many things that this whole story just ends. Right here, right now, both as I type this sentence while wrapped in blankets in my bed, and literally right now as we talk about it. So that's my story.
Great. I loved it.
So just more details.
Insightful.
The tattoo is going to be a harpoon gun, and then it's going to be a quote from one of my favorite shows of all time. The quote is Quo Vadimus, which is loosely Latin for where are we going? Which is like
Great.
perfect because
Yeah.
it's like, in theory, it'll be like a harpoon gun. So I've died, and then right underneath it, where am I going? That sort of vibe.
Exactly.
And then
Yeah.
it'll be a good reminder. And I think I want to get it on my arm, but I'm not 100% sure where yet.
Fair.
So, and it'll be my first tattoo, which I'm so nervous about. But
Yeah. That's exciting.
right. And just last
I
night,
remember.
sorry,
Yeah.
you go.
You go. You go. You go.
I just was gonna say, last night was the first time I ever thought to like bring a ghosty aspect to my thoughts about it, which is kind
Yeah.
of interesting.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say is that's a really neat take on that dream. Because I remember you telling me about that dream in college and us having conversations about how you were gonna die on your 27th birthday.
Yeah, literally. And it's like, I don't know. I am obviously I have obsessed over it for way too long, so I am just endlessly fascinated by it. But
Right.
I um I don't know, another reflection or like something I've also considered is the figure, is it a metaphor? Is the figure myself killing the old me? But then why is the figure always in my brain male? And yet here I
Yeah.
am, the most non-binary trans person. Like, Literally, gender confuses me more than anything else in my entire life. Like,
Right.
and yet here I am.
Here we
Um,
are.
and maybe it's, and then like I also go from that. I've said like maybe it's two different parts of me fighting, and the fight ends on the 27th, and it doesn't matter the gender, and um maybe it's one last final retaliation I'll have to deal with when I'm 27 from my old self. Or maybe
Right.
that's when I publicly tell my family that they them pronouns is what I prefer. Maybe it's when I change my name to Ducky legally. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's so
Yeah.
many things it could be. Maybe I die and become a ghost, like actually.
Like, actually, yeah, who knows? How interesting. How insightful. I never thought to think of it like death as like death to the you know?
Hmm.
Like not like actual physical death, but like to maybe the part of you that is masculine, you know? Maybe you're getting rid of it. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
crazy and fun. I love that.
I also maybe unintentionally I have been living as a ghost currently and dying in the dream, and dying on my 27th birthday is what makes me alive and lets me drop a lot of traumas. And maybe
Yeah.
like over this year, I move through and past a lot of things that I've been carrying that I don't even know I'm carrying, and start experiencing life. And and with it and my like recent like just machinations on my life in general, my theories and my thoughts, I have like two really solid best friends that live over 8 hours away from me, and I talk to you guys, you and Ian. I talk to Ian every single day, and I've talked to him pretty much every single day since we met, which I just did the math the other day, is about, I just typed it into Google. It's like 8,069 days or something like that. And I talk to you like once a week now, and
Right.
obviously we
Which
have
is
a
much more than
connection.
it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have both a like social friend connection, but we also have a spiritual connection. So both of my
Right.
friendships feel like they're on the exact same level of just like
Good.
people I would literally drop everything and come help if needed. Um, I live with my sister who I would take a bullet for, but I also don't have friends here in North Carolina. I
Right.
don't hang out with people. I go home, I stay home. I don't do anything social. I take no classes. Um, the only people I've become friends with in North Carolina since moving here 3 years ago, the only people I even talk to are current or ex coworkers. So I'm
Right.
like, am I not living my life? Is that what this is all about? Like, that's been the recent thought on this dream. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's definitely a contrast to at least the past that I am familiar with. I don't know much about you growing up or anything, but well, I guess that's not true. I do know a bit about like your childhood. You know, like
Yeah.
in college, you had all kinds of friends. You had a couple of best friends, but like there were always people that you were talking to.
Yeah. And I'm like, it was that solely because of being around them, being able to access them? And
Right.
why am I an adult now? Like I'm afraid to like go to the gym and walk into a gym completely blind and be like, "Hey, I've never gone to a gym before. I would love for people to show me what I'm doing." And also, like do I just go to places and be like, "Hi, I don't have friends. Will you be my friend?" Like is that how that works? I
Yeah.
legitimately don't know. And
Yeah.
like being autistic on top of that doesn't help.
Right. No, I get that. Definitely. Because I guess I'm facing a similar thing. Well, it's changed a little bit. Because I used to only be friends with my coworkers. Granted, I had several coworkers, and I was very grateful that several of them were in my age range and had similar interests.
Right.
So, like, back when I worked at Dollar Tree, which I will out that because I don't work there anymore. um, I was friends with like several of the cashiers. We all liked anime. We all liked going on car rides. You know, I taught them how to knit. Like, we were friends. And as people started leaving, we weren't friends anymore because we didn't see each other. We no longer had access.
Right.
So I completely get that. I think that's definitely a big chunk of what that is.
Yeah. I don't know. And like,
I don't know.
even yesterday, I tried something new. I went to a bookstore I've never been before. I talked to the person who was working. I know way too much about her now.
Good.
But she's a
That's how you make
worker.
friends.
Right. But she's a worker and at work. And she was probably twice my age and clearly not queer. You know what I mean? And like, which is not an
Yeah,
issue in
yeah.
any way, shape, or form. I have friends of all kinds of ages and stuff from the past. All kinds of ages and demographics and genders and sexualities and races and whatever. But I don't know. It's just so weird. Like, I don't know. It's weird to be a human. That's it.
Yes, sure is. I mean, I recently, I guess, technically started making friends because I joined that cosplay group.
Yeah.
Um, and that was like my first experience doing something to make friends in the recent years. And it's weird. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's just strange to make friends as an adult.
And like, I find it increasingly difficult nowadays to find solid online spaces. I feel like it
Yeah,
used to be so much easier to make friends online, and nowadays it's like inherently more
difficult.
difficult. Like,
Yeah, I would agree.
so that's kind of my
Yeah.
story. And chat. And uh we will input a little short break just so the audience can take a little breather, and then we'll dive right into Kat's story.
Yay.
Hey, it's Kat. Enjoying the show? Be sure to share us with your friends and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, follow, rate us, leave us a review, or anything else you want to do. Now let's get back to the magic with unfamiliar witches.
Welcome back. Okay. So we're about to dive into Kat's story that she has also written, which will be very exciting. But first, I have to remember, Kat reminded me on break. Thank you so much, Kat. You're the best. I need to give you all my ghost theory. So previous ghosty things, okay? My experience with ghosts in media largely involves ghost hunting shows, because of course it does. It also involves all of the big, huge, massive amounts of stories surrounding this random haunted boat, this old hospital, this old hospital. Oh, look, another old hospital that's been abandoned and is full of ghosts. Crazy. And all of them, or most of them, are tied to these, like, the most haunted places in America. They're usually all tied to da 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 da, pick a disease, tuberculosis, polio, cough, black plague, all of these things, right? Because in Europe, it's like a little different. The places are tied to other massive diseases, right? Pandemics, let's say.
Right.
So, as communication changed, as entertainment changed, we obviously saw a massive uptick in the ghost hunting genre, the paranormal genres on TV, on the internet, everything, right? Unsolved mysteries. BuzzFeed did that for a while. I think they still do it, but it's not BuzzFeed, or maybe it is. I don't know. I never actually watched it. But we've got all of these massive things coming from a certain amount of time passed when all of these places experienced massive turmoil, some of which opened solely to deal with said diseases, pandemics, whatever you want to call it. And we literally just went through a global pandemic that killed millions and millions and millions of people. So I am going to be so very fascinated by what form of media spirals out of COVID-19. In 30, 40 years, are we going to be seeing these places that were built or constructed or temporarily constructed solely for COVID? If they're built over, are those new businesses like incredibly haunted? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why does nobody ever talk about nursing homes being incredibly haunted? People only talk about death that's happened a long time ago, but there's nursing homes that have been open for the same amount of time. Is it because they're still open? Like, I have so many thoughts and theories, and it's just so crazy. And will we even see another uptick of ghost hunting shows? Or will that not happen because it's already happened? We've already destroyed the genre. Isn't that fascinating?
That is extremely fascinating.
Ooh, and then when Ouija boards and seances and stuff like that got very popular in the Victorian era, are we going to even see that happening again, where we have these people who are claiming to do seances and rituals and play with Ouija boards? Like, is all of that going to come back up because people have given, we've had time to kind of get past the taboo of talking about COVID, the pain of talking about COVID.
Yeah, like a whole resurgence.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That is crazy, and I love it.
And no one's talking about this. No one's been like, wait, massive diseases led to ghosts being in the public eye. So huge pandemic that just took out like millions of people. Unfortunately, my heart goes out to everyone, but that's got to lead to something. What's going to be the cause of that? What's the effect?
That does.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, funky.
In 20 years, is all witchcraft just going to be about death, spirituality, talking to ancestors? Like, do we?
Yeah, in all honesty,
will it kill neo-paganism? That's a huge, crazy question, but it could happen.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Sorry, I'm throwing things. Yeah, no, that totally could happen. That's crazy. I didn't think about that. See,
I've literally seen nobody talk about it.
No, not at all. I thought your theory was going to be, are the ghosts of like previous plague deaths haunting those who had COVID? And I was like excited to figure out why you got that theory.
Oh, yeah. I guess it did kind of sound like it could have been that. That's fascinating. I guess it could be that too. Why not?
Yeah, why not? I mean, theoretically, like what is sickness? It's just ghosts in your blood, as the medieval times would say.
True.
Maybe they were on to something.
Awesome. So that's that. Let's hear this phenomenal story.
Yeah, let me take a little sip of water.
Same Z's. Hydration break.
Hydration break. Fun fact, I spilled like so much water on me 2 seconds ago.
Oh my god, I didn't even tell you. 2 days ago, I don't think I sent this to you on Snapchat either. Like 2-3 days ago, I heated up broth. I've been doing it a lot. Just to drink. And I put it in the microwave for a minute. And I was like, perf, amazing. Touch it. It's cold. The fuck? So I put it in the microwave for another minute. Why? Riddle me this. Why was it then the temperature of the actual sun? I took a sip. I burned my tongue so bad.
Oh
my tongue still hurts.
I bet. Ow.
I literally melted taste buds on my tongue. That's the only way I know how to describe it. Because it still aches. Okay,
I'm
sorry.
so
Unrelated.
sorry. No, we got to figure out what's up with your microwave.
Honestly.
Okay, so your story was very insightful for your experience. Allow me to switch the fucking script, my
Hell yeah.
friend. So mine is completely fictional. Except for the fact because I was just like, I'm gonna write what I feel like writing. I'm gonna write a little ghost story for this little podcast. Um, it has to deal with my personal fears. And specifically like my greatest fear. So that's gonna be really hype to dive into. And this is one of those things where maybe by writing this down and sharing it, my vulnerability to the spiritual world will increase. And hopefully that means I will be more open to ghosty spookies. I don't know. Or like,
Hell yeah.
spiritual advice or like speaking to the higher self, whatever. It's really just like, hey, here is this story I wrote and I hope it speaks to somebody. After I wrote it and I reread it, I was like, this kind of feels like another podcast I know of. It kind of feels like a statement from the Magnus Archives. I don't know if you listen to that, Ducky, but I love the Magnus Archives. And I wrote this whole thing and I reread it and I was like, this feels like a Magnus Archives episode. So just enjoy my off brand Jonathan Sims impression.
I have never listened to, but should I?
Oh,
Would I
yes.
enjoy it?
Yes.
Is it similar
Yes, you would.
to what's that one? It's like midnight something. There's another podcast or something that's like midnight veil. I don't know. I've never
I
listened to
have
either.
heard of that. I have not listened to Midnight Vale,
Okay.
but the Magnus Archives, I'm not going to spoil anything for you about like the big reveals you get along the way. But it starts off, and the premise is sorry, I know I'm just giving a description for another podcast on our podcast, but like,
Fuck it.
please go listen to the Magnus Archives. Their season 2 is coming out, and I'm so excited. Okay, so the premise is Jonathan Sims is recording on like actual tapes. So the recording sounds like a tape recorder. Um, and he has recently been appointed head archivist of the Magnus Institute after the death of his predecessor, Gertrude Robinson. So she died. He took over. He was, I think, an outside hire. I don't think no, maybe he did. I don't know. But he starts taking these statements and recording them not digitally but like on tape so that they can do away with the papers, right? Because apparently Gertrude left the entire archive in like a huge mess.
Okay.
So he starts reading these statements and you find out that the Magnus Institute is like the Magnus Institute of paranormal and like something else, like weird happenings on Earth. So the statements are like basically people's ghost stories, like people's experiences. And
Oh.
eventually, like you start it and you're just like, oh, it's just like a dude reading these things. Okay. But then it gets like things happen to John and then things happen to other people and you connect dots and names keep showing up and like literally write down all of the names because most of them come back. And like
That's rad.
it's so cool. They do it so well. You don't even know that things are happening until they are happening. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, I was listening to it way back in college. I talk about college a lot. I should probably go to a therapist about that. But I was listening to it way back in college and I was like falling asleep, like I was sleeping because I fell asleep listening to it. And then John starts like screaming about something, and I like woke up out of a dead sleep in a panic, and it
Oh my
was
god.
phenomenal.
That sounds rad. I'm definitely
Literally,
gonna listen.
it is so good. It has ruined all other podcasts for me, like entertainment podcasts.
Iconic.
It's the perfect one, and I love it, and you will love it. Please listen to it.
Another side tangent
Anyway,
not related to ghosts. Cool.
great.
Another really great entertainment podcast that I am going to actively suggest Kat listen to is called
Mhm.
Wooden Overcoats. It feels like a
Okay.
radio play. It is so well produced. It is it's about a very quirky kind of made found family of 3 that run fun funerals. So they run
Oh.
a like mortuary or they run like a funeral service, and a new person moves to town and also opens a funeral home, and it is delightful and weird. And the narrator is uh, revealed at the end of the first episode, and it blows your mind.
Ooh, wooden overcoats. Okay,
Yes,
I'll check that out.
it's really good. Okay, I
Yeah.
also so wooden overcoats is a joke about coffins.
Mhm.
And from the get, I am like, somebody in this show is a vampire. 100%. I can tell. But I don't know
Love
who
it.
it is. And I have a theory that it is one of the main characters, and this person is allowed to go into the sunlight. That's all I'm saying. I have a theory
Interesting.
that somebody's a vampire. I haven't listened to all of it, so I don't know for sure, but
Great. I love it. I can't wait. That's so exciting.
great.
Anyway, so my story.
Yeah, take it away.
All right. Can you hear me if I talk like softer,
Yeah,
like about here? Okay, cool.
I can always boost the audio too if needed.
Please. Okay. The call of the void is what they name it. That empty yet pulling feeling you get while looking into pure, unfeeling darkness. Staring into a dark canyon from a ground level cliff in the middle of the night, or a dank black cave you should be able to see several yards into, but visibility stops fuzzily mere feet past the entrance. And knowing that all it takes is one single step into that looming, swallowing darkness to gulp you down into it. Brain knows it likely leads to death, whether it be smashing to the hard rock hundreds of feet below, or crushed by a wrong step leading to collapse of tons and tons of dirt and stone, and yet the void calls. Standing on the exposed deck of a small cargo ship in the middle of the night is one such example of this phenomena. Normally, the lights inside the captain's quarters and hung on the mast would alleviate this to some degree, lighting up the deck and creating what feels to be a small box of home, a lone isolated platform of welcoming light and camaraderie in a literal ocean of strange nothingness. But not tonight. After a day of extremely harsh weather and wave, the lights hang limp and broken, sharp-toothed reminders of the damage done to our vessel. She held strong at first, crashing, facing the water with all she had, but like many other machines, her endurance eventually gave way to the relentless crash, crashing. One gust of wind tore the flag and takes several ropes from the banisters, and before we knew it, the loud rumbling and creaking of the metal hull added its song to the symphony of growls, hisses, and rumbles of the storm as we felt the ship lurch beneath us, the lights dimming almost beautifully. A slow fade to contrast the pointed lightning running across the angry sky. The crew shared quiet looks of concern in the dark as reality settled into the pits of our bellies like bricks. Her strength was gone. The engine failed. So, drifting in the now calm ocean in the cold night air, cloud cover hiding the stars above, no lights, no hum of the propeller, just me and the sound of splashing as water pushes along our floating casket. I'm completely and utterly surrounded by the void. There is no darkness like black water against a black sky. I know there is solid wood beneath me, and yet looking out and seeing nothing makes my feet feel as though they're standing on thin air, as though I'm floating here inside that same dark pit, suspended before the final second of crashing down onto that hard rock at the bottom of the canyon. When I hear it, the strangest thing, almost a low hum at first, not the same hum of a boat engine or horn. I'd never heard anything like it. Steady, it started, a deep sound spreading across this vast nothing. Then louder it grew, varying now in its tone and power, growing in depth. It felt as though it was all around me. As it crescendoed to a peak, shaking my whole being, I thought, a word, repeated over and over in the throbbing sound. Come, come. I see a light in the horizon. First, I think it's my mind trying to trick me to make anything to look at. Then the moon, I think. It must be the moon, with how big it is, coming to swallow us whole, the clouds clearing the path for it. It wasn't till the light was shining on the deck of the ship that I recognized what exactly it was, a rescue vessel. Ship, I cry, ship. Feet pounded against the stairs and the deck until 10, 15 men joined my side, waving arms, one even shooting off a flare from the emergency cabinet. It wasn't long before we were hooked, bridged, and boarded. The sailors came across one at a time, one of my mates rushing up to tell a higher ranking officer about our mechanical failure. When it happened, I saw it with my own eyes. The officer walked right through him, not past, not around. No, that we would see, we would understand, but through. He paused briefly as though he may have noticed something, but continued on his path shortly after. Another crewman tried to speak to the men, raising his hand to grip at his shoulder. It passed right through. They inspected, spoke about how run down it was, the rust on the stairs, the broken lights on the mast, the spoiled supplies, until they discussed the crew. No sign of them, they said. Even as we screamed, pleaded, waved, none accounted for, no bodies, an empty ship. Must have abandoned, jumped overboard, a futile attempt to swim to safety. As they sail away, once again leaving our ship adrift in this vast, whole emptiness, something they said stuck with me. I thought, among those jagged dark lights, the quiet of the broken engine, the call of the void. That's what they named it. The end.
Fucking amazing. Holy shit, Kat.
Thanks. I wrote that.
I like don't even have words. It just like explains itself perfectly.
Yay! That makes me happy. Might have been a little too heavy-handed with like symbolism and stuff, but like whatever, it's fine.
It's fine. I loved it.
Thanks. I haven't like creatively written in at least a year, so it was really nice to just like sit down and just write a story.
Hell yeah. I kind of felt the same, even though mine was like true experience.
Yeah, fair.
Wow. Yeah, that's really fascinating. I wonder if this is. I have so many amazing, loving,
Thought.
gushing compliments to give for your story that I
Oh,
almost am skipping that right now. If that makes
yeah,
sense.
fair.
So I don't just want to do that for 10 minutes. Um,
Yeah.
so I have a separate thought, related but unrelated, where I wonder if do ancestors are can I don't know. When does a ghost is a ghost uh, obviously a ghost is an ancestor to someone. Um
Right.
is a ghost separate than like their ancestral spirit? Could a
Ooh.
ghost be, for lack of a better term, because this is a phrase used in ghost hunting and they have a lot of different theories and thoughts about uh what is and what isn't this phrase, but is a ghost essentially residual energy from the person and their influence on the world, and the ancestor, the spirit, is the actual being that used to live. Is that a thought?
Yeah, interesting.
That's
I
kind of
didn't
how
think about it.
I feel like that's maybe how I have thought about it. Like,
Yeah.
there is a person who used to own the house that I currently am in. Our house is almost in 2025. Our house will be 100 years old, the one that my sister bought.
Wow.
We're going to have a fun celebration. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
The person who owned this house before us, I do not know if they are dead, but we do have confirmation that it was an older woman.
Hmm.
I feel her energy all the time in this house. I have directly interacted with her in this house or things that she has influenced. I have deemed her Gertrude, just because that name feels fun and correct. She really enjoys it when
Yeah.
my sister and I crochet and knit and do fiber arts. Um, Similarly, when our cats are being nice and snuggly, I feel like she's in the room just observing, that sort of thing. Um,
Hmm.
but she feels like it's residual energy. It doesn't feel like it's
Active.
an active person. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's not active
Yeah.
choice. It feels residual. Similarly to in this house, and Danielle, I'm sorry if you're listening to this episode specifically. This might be a little triggering. I'm so sorry. But in this house, um, we have had a cat die and we have had a dog die.
Hmm.
Well, we've put them down while we live in this house. And even to this day, still, the cat was a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago. I think the year we moved in. And I still feel residual energy from both the cat and the dog.
Right.
Um, Many times his name was Shamu. Many times I'll be like, "Oh, hi Shamu." And I just say it and then realize what I just said because I almost like feel him brushing my leg, that sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then very similarly to Sally, the dog, um, there are moments where I'm like, "Oh, hi, Sally," and like I say it out loud and pray that my sister doesn't hear me because I don't want to
Hmm.
bring up emotions and stuff like that. Those were both her
Right.
animals that she had for a long time, but I can't help it because I'm so like in tune to the energies of this house that I'm like, I have to say hi. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, you
they just
have
made
to.
themselves known. I have to say hi.
Exactly.
And I can't help but feel like ghosts might be that, but for people.
I agree. Yeah.
And
Yeah. They
yeah,
just exist. They just push in. They can interact with you or they don't have to, you
yeah.
know?
Because they say residual hauntings, I think, is something where it's like I think what they mean by that is it's basically like the same events play over and over and over again or something along those lines versus
Yeah,
like
pretty
an
much.
active haunting, which is where the ghost does different stuff. Um, it's
Yeah, where like
something,
it actually interacts.
yeah, it's like something like that. But at the end of the day, isn't it all residual energy? Like in theory?
Yeah, all of it is. It is all residual something. Like something is residing here that
Yeah.
used to. Like
I mean,
yeah.
I even think that way when I look at a like an old park bench and you see the dip of just where everybody sat on it. Like
Yeah.
even that is almost a ghost in and of itself. You know?
Everything's a ghost.
Hell yeah. Well, also in
Hell yeah.
theory, everywhere has had something die. So
Oh yeah, for sure. So who's to say that like it isn't still there?
yeah, it's wild.
It is.
And then, ooh, I wonder if people. I just had a completely fascinating thought, even more so. I wonder if people have anxiety because they do not have, and this is, okay, this is, I'm going to say this, but I'm immediately backing out of saying this. So I will explain in a sec.
Great.
I wonder if people have anxiety because they have uh, less experience interacting with vibration. And because so many things have lived in so many places on this earth, they are interacting with a lot more energy than they're used to. or
Mm.
people were used to, and that's why there's like more anxiety. But I also don't want to say that anything spiritual is connected to mental health in any way, shape, or form, really, because
Right,
anxiety is
right.
very real for a lot of people, including myself, who is very used to interacting with energies. So I immediately bailed from that, and I don't want to discount people having anxiety in the past and nobody just knowing the terminology to talk about it. Because people in the Victorian era absolutely had anxiety, but nobody knew what that was then. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It wasn't in the common vernacular. So I immediately backed away from that, but it is a thought. Because my anxiety always feels like if I am when I do very high vibrational work building the vibrations of a situation for a ritual, like a proper ritual, like big casting, right? It is very similar
Mhm.
to anxiety in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
So is it I
yeah,
it could
for
just
sure.
be certain people ride certain frequencies and those frequencies happen to affect their body. Maybe that is a better way of saying it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can agree with that for sure. I definitely think that that could be a thing, especially for people who are like unsure, if they've never experienced things before, like spooky things or spiritual things. It could be an interaction with vibes for sure. And
Yeah.
yes, anxiety is absolutely real and has like medical like causes and stuff like that. But
Right.
also, like some of it could maybe be, and that's a fun little speculation.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
obviously in that too, anxiety could be switched out for many other things as well.
right, exactly.
I used anxiety because it was just the term that came to mind, but that's why the disclaimer because it could be anything.
Yeah, it could. Yeah,
Like butterflies for a date. Are you just on the frequency before that date?
exactly.
And then what's fascinating about that is uh I have been informed that when you find the person that you're meant to be with or the peoples that you're meant to be with, uh most people on their first date for that don't have butterflies. They feel completely calm the entire time.
Oh,
Like
neat.
they almost feel like you're already in the relationship,
That's cool.
which is like fascinating to me. I love that I have heard that multiple times, but also like it doesn't work if you're neurotypical or neurodivergent.
Yeah, because you're always gonna be freaking out.
Yeah, I always have butterflies on my stomach. So I also
Yes,
have
same.
horrible stomach issues. So like you know what I
Oh my gosh, me too.
mean? So what is
Good
what?
for us. We'll never know.
It's all ghosts. And with that, let's finish this episode.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, I'm about to say this in the outro as well, that is pre recorded and plays at the end of every episode. But absolutely, if you loved this episode, please give us a rating on all of the podcast platforms that you listen on, preferably Spotify. It makes us so much more findable. We currently are on, I
Yeah.
believe, episode 10. Happy uh, double digits. And also, we officially have, and this is going to date us and whatever, but I'm going to hit our TikTok hard, and hopefully, we will grow this very quickly this year. That's kind of my New Year's resolution is we are going to destroy this podcast this year. Um,
Great.
we are currently at 10 Spotify followers. This is our 10th episode. The numerology is happy, baby.
The numerology.
um, so hopefully it'll be like 100 in like 5 episodes. We'll find out.
That would be so great. I would love
um,
that.
yeah, I'm gonna get really onto our TikTok. So feel free to follow
Yeah,
us
I
on
need to
TikTok.
do that.
It's gonna get lit. We're gonna start making more YouTube videos. Feel free, or a YouTube video this year at least. So follow
At
us on
least one.
YouTube. Um, also, I am going to make sure soon, I promise, soon, we're going to figure out how to do visuals as well. I know it's a podcast and people don't really care necessarily, but I find I like when I get to look at the people. So,
Yeah, it would be good for the YouTube, being able to just like watch us. You
yeah,
just all have to ignore the fact that I look like a freaking possum, okay?
same. I will be backlit and have headphones on. So, and a mic in
Yeah.
front of my face. Like, and there's
Yeah.
no getting
Well,
around that. So,
I think the only thing holding us back anyway from that is the fact that I don't have a computer. So,
also that, yeah, literally.
yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you so much for listening once again. Have a wonderful week and get witchy, bitches. Bye.
Get ghosty. Bye.
Ghosty bitches. Thanks so much for listening. If you liked that episode, please leave us a review and a 5-star rating on whatever podcast platform you're on. Also, feel free to follow us over on all of our socials at Unfamiliar Witches, where we post bonus witchy content and chaos. See you next week. Now play us out, Janet.